If you go to the main entrance of Westminster Abbey in London, just inside the door there, you'll find a lone grave. This is, of course, the grave of the unknown British warrior from the First World War. It's a symbol. It represents all of those who fell during the Great War. And it really means a lot, an awful lot to people even today, but more so back in the day. You see, during the First World War, 880,000 British and Dominion troops were killed, and around half of those have no known grave, their bodies lost or simply unidentifiable. Can you imagine the impact on their families back then? Having lost their loved one, having no grave to visit, no place to grieve. The idea for the unknown warrior was conceived by the Reverend David Railton way back in 1916 when he was serving in the British Army as a padre. He was in a rest area near Armistice in France, and at the back of the building where he was staying there was the grave of an unknown British warrior, member of the Black Watch. He'd been in the Territorial Army before the war in a Highland regiment, and this really kind of got to him. And he thought it'd be fantastic if we could take one of these unknown warriors home. Yeah, he even wrote to the High Command but got no response about the idea. So after the war, it was still with him, still bugging him. And his wife said, why don't you write to the Dean of Westminster? That's the Herbert Royal, the Right Reverend Herbert Royal. And he took on the torch. Yeah, and he got the momentum going, writing to all of the important people in the land. So, on the 7th of November 1920, 4 separate burial parties were sent out into the main battlefields of the Western Front: Ypres, the Aisne, Arras, and of course the Somme. And each one exhumes a body, has to be well salted down so that it cannot be recognised only as an unknown British soldier. They're transported by motor ambulance to General Headquarters at St Paul. There, the burial parties are dismissed. The bodies are placed on stretchers in a makeshift chapel in a Nissen hut, a tin hut, and Union flags are placed over each one. Then Brigadier General Wyatt and Colonel Gell enter the building and quickly, reverently choose one of the bodies. The remaining 3 are reburied. The unknown warrior now is placed into a temporary coffin. We call him Unknown Warrior. You see, he may have been an airman. He could have been a sailor fighting with the naval divisions on land. It's the unknown British warrior. At Boulogne, as the coffin of the unknown warrior was loaded onto HMS Verdun, Marshal Foch, leader of the French armed forces, saluted the coffin. On the journey across, HMS Verdun and escorts made their way back towards Dover. And as HMS Verdun emerges out of the mist of the channel, the fog, it's challenged. Who are you? Verdun and escort, and Britain's unknown son. Wow. All the quaysides, the harbour, everywhere in Dover was packed full of people, silent, waiting to get a glimpse of the coffin. So the coffin was disembarked from HMS Verdun and then placed in a passenger luggage goods van, which the railway workers had painted the roof white so people could see it, and they'd lined it inside with purple satin. The coffin was loaded, and it's just an ordinary train. It's taking the body up to London Victoria. Every station, military bands played, guards of honour. Every footbridge, every little bit of track that people could stand near were there. Back doors were opened of houses and lights shone as this train went by, as people stood silent. When it arrives at Victoria, people are so eager to see the coffin, they even buy train tickets to try and get onto the platform to catch a glimpse. However, the carriage was taken to platform 8, which is the Buckingham Palace Road entrance to the Victoria station, and there it will remain overnight under strict honour guard. So it's the morning of the 11th of November 1920. The oak casket of the unknown warrior is taken from the parcel van and fastened to a gun carriage, which will be pulled by 6 black horses of the Royal Horse Artillery. The procession makes its way to the cenotaph, the new war memorial for the nation. The king is standing to one side, waiting for the procession to arrive. At 11 o'clock on the 11th of November 1920, the bells of Big Ben sound, and on the 11th chime, the King presses a button and the Union flags, both of them, fall to the ground. Now the parade forms up. The King, in a Field Marshal's uniform, falls in behind the unknown warrior. Hundreds of soldiers in uniform, veterans, medals gleaming now. Orders are barked, and the parade makes its way to Westminster Abbey. Thousands of people lined the route and watched as the unknown warrior trundled by on its way to Westminster Abbey, where, on arrival, he was carried feet first through the door, where he will be laid to rest amongst our kings and queens. Once the funeral was over and all the dignitaries had gone home, a temporary cover was put on the grave so that people could simply come and view. It was a silent, sobbing queue that wound around London. Black-clad mothers, orphans, widows carried lilies, the scent of which simply filled the air as they shuffled to view the grave of our unknown fallen son. A policeman who was on duty recalled how he met an old lady who had travelled down from the north of Scotland. She had lost her son in the war. In her hands, she had a bunch of wilted flowers, and she explained to the policeman that she picked these from the garden that her son had planted when he was only 6 years of age. The tomb of the unknown warrior is still there at Westminster Abbey. Thousands of people visit it every year. It has become a focus of our nation's grief, not just for those who fell in the First World War, but also the Second World War, and of course, all of the conflicts ever since. So if you do visit yourself, take a moment, pay your respects.